Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a journey of self-discovery and inner strength. Today, we unmask a question that many shy away from. Why married women indeed? Why any committed partner find themselves tempted? From the standpoint of Stoic wisdom, temptation is neither a personal failing nor an insurmountable force. It is an invitation to exercise our greatest human capacities, reason, choice, and inner freedom. Over the next several thousand words, we will explore the roots of temptation, the unique pressures married women face, and the Stoic strategies that transform weakness into wisdom and raw impulse into resolute virtue. Let us commit ourselves fully to this exploration, for in revealing the truth about why temptations arise, we equip ourselves to rise above them. 1. The nature of temptation and the Stoic framework. Temptation is at once deceptively simple and profoundly complex, a single spark that can ignite a blaze of distraction, regret, or even betrayal. To the untrained mind, it appears as a harmless, nudge and innocent invitation to indulge, but to the Stoic, every urge carries within it the potential to either strengthen or shatter the fortress of our character. Imagine that spark as a visitor at your gate. You may be curious, you may feel flattered by its attention, but you need not open the door. Stoicism teaches us to stand firm, to inspect that visitor with the clear light of reason, and to decide whether it serves our highest purpose. First, we draw a firm line between what we control and what we do not. External events and other persons, glance, a flattering message, the lure of novelty are indifferent by nature. They bounce off the walls of our inner citadel unless we choose to give them weight. Marcus Aurelius reminds us that externals do not touch the heart, for they are away from us in the common world, and so they remain harmless until we consent to their power. This distinction is our first shield, separating the world's noise from the judgment seat within our minds. Next, we confront the fundamental Stoic dichotomy of desire versus indifference. We are wired to crave what looks pleasurable, to shun what appears painful, yet true pleasure, say the Stoics, is the quiet joy born of a disciplined soul, of a mind that has learned to value virtue above all else. We rewire our appetites through practice, training ourselves to turn aside from transient thrills and instead taste the deep satisfaction that comes from acting with wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance. But how do we catch the mind's silver-tongued lies? That's where the third pillar comes in, the examination of impressions. Every temptation arrives first as an impression, a thought, a flash of longing, a scenario your imagination conjures. Epictetus urges us not to assent immediately, but to interrogate. Is this impression reliable? Does it lead toward virtue or away from it? By inserting a moment of pause, however brief, we create the gap in which reason can slip between impulse and action. That pause is the hinge of freedom. Without it, we march blindly after every passing fancy. Finally, we acknowledge that virtue, like any skill, grows through persistent practice. Just as an athlete strengthens muscles through daily repetition, so too do we fortify our self-command by meeting small tests with unwavering resolve. Each time we turn away from temptation, whether it's a lingering daydream or a fleeting message, we cement our capacity to say no. Over time, resisting small urges makes resisting great ones almost inevitable. Our inner citadel becomes not just a refuge, but a launching pad, a place from which we confidently step forward into life's trials, rather than trembling before them. In this framework, control versus no control, desire versus indifference, impression examination, and persistence of practice, temptation ceases to be an enemy lurking in the shadows. It transforms into a teacher who reveals the true extent of our strength and the depth of our commitment. By mastering these 4 pillars, we learn to greet each spark with clear eyes and a calm heart, choosing not simply to survive temptation, but to triumph over it. And in that triumph, we discover the liberating truth: our character is ours alone, and no external force can ever steal the virtue we have so deliberately forged. 2. The unique landscape of marriage. Marriage, at its best, is the grandest of human enterprises, a partnership forged in trust, shared dreams, and steadfast commitment. Yet within its warmth and security lie hidden contours that can unexpectedly draw us toward temptation. Recognizing these contours does not diminish the sacred bond. Instead, it arms us with clarity, fueling our resolve to honor the vows we've made and the lives we've intertwined. First, there's the subtle erosion of novelty that accompanies deep familiarity. In the flicker of early romance, every glance from our spouse ignites excitement. Over time, however, the steady rhythm of daily life settles into predictable patterns, morning routines, dinner rituals, bedtime conversations. These patterns are comforting proof of stability and trust, but they can also lull our senses into complacency. When our hearts grow accustomed to familiar gestures, the smallest crack in the routine, a flirtatious smile from a colleague, an unexpected compliment on social media can feel like a gust of fresh air. In that moment, the mind whispers, just a taste of something new, even as the Stoic within reminds us that stability, not novelty, is the bedrock of lasting fulfillment. Then comes the weight of modern obligation. Married women often bear the heaviest load of juggling roles: career professional, loving mother, devoted partner, dutiful daughter, and perhaps caretaker for aging relatives. Each role demands time, energy, and emotional labor. Nights blur into days as to-do lists multiply, and soon the spirit grows fatigued. In such exhaustion, temptation emerges as a siren song promising effortless validation, a simple message that praises our worth, a clandestine interaction that feeds a starving ego. But this allure is a mirage. It offers only momentary relief, leaving the deeper fatigue and the guilt undiminished. Layered on top of these pressures is the challenge of self-identity. When so much of our energy is devoted to serving others, our desires and passions can slip into the background. We begin to ask, who am I beyond these roles? Without regular occasions for self-reflection, an inner void takes shape, and temptation can masquerade as discovery, a way to reclaim a sense of self. Yet Stoic wisdom teaches that true identity is rooted not in external circumstances or fleeting pleasures, but in the steadfast practice of virtue. We reclaim our sense of self by pausing daily to affirm our core values, ensuring our actions flow from who we truly want to be. Finally, we navigate an age of hyper-connectivity, where temptation is never more than a swipe or click away. Social media platforms and messaging apps create endless opportunities for unexpected connections. A single notification can thrust us into a digital dance with an acquaintance or stranger. Each interaction a test of our self-command. We may find ourselves scrolling through curated images of attraction, comparing our marriage to idealized portrayals of romance, and feeling a pang of dissatisfaction. The Stoic response is not to retreat in fear, but to engage with full awareness. We choose what to consume, we govern our attention, and we remember that true worth is measured not by virtual likes, but by the depth of our character and the fidelity of our commitments. In this unique landscape of marriage, where routine seduces us with comfort, exhaustion beckons us with escape, fractured identity invites us to seek validation, and digital temptation races toward us at all hours, the Stoic path stands as our guide. By illuminating these vulnerabilities without judgment, we transform awareness into power. We learn to greet each pressure point not with shame, but with resolve, turning marriage itself into a practice arena for courage, wisdom, temperance, and justice. In doing so, we do more than resist temptation. We elevate our partnership into an unbreakable citadel of shared virtue and purpose. 3. The psychology of temptation. Temptation is not a mere lapse of willpower. It is a dynamic interplay of mind and emotion, a collision of instinct and intellect that unfolds deep within our psyche. To understand why urges can seize married women, indeed anyone bound to a solemn commitment, we must examine the hidden machinery of thought and feeling that stirs beneath the surface. In this exploration, the Stoic serves as both surgeon and healer, diagnosing the malady of temptation and prescribing the cure of conscious reason. At the heart of every temptation lies the pleasure principle, an ancient drive to pursue what feels good and evade what hurts. Modern psychology traces this impulse to the part of the brain that registers reward, a biological mechanism honed by evolution to keep us alive and thriving. Yet the Stoic transcends this animal impulse by redefining pleasure itself. Genuine joy is not the momentary rush of dopamine, but the enduring satisfaction born of moral integrity. When a tempting thought flickers, That flirtatious text will make me feel alive again. The Stoic knows that this fleeting high pales beside the lasting serenity that follows a virtuous choice. By reframing pleasure as the byproduct of discipline, we weaken the pleasure principles hold on our actions. Equally powerful is the role of fantasy, the mind's uncanny gift to conjure vivid inner worlds. In a moment of fatigue or loneliness, a daydream of secret romance can blossom into an intoxicating reverie that feels more real than reality itself. Yet these fantasies are nothing more than impressions of Epictetus's first visitors, which we have the power either to entertain or to dismiss. The Stoic practice of impression examination demands that we challenge every mental image. Is this vision aligned with my values? Does it serve my highest purpose? By interrogating fantasies at the instant they arise, we prevent them from cascading into action. In so doing, we reclaim the imagination as an instrument of virtue rather than a breeding ground for desire. But our inner landscape does not exist in isolation. We are social creatures wired for emotional contagion, the warmth of a colleague's laughter, the subtle flirtation in a co-worker's tone, even the glow of a carefully curated social media profile all can seep into our emotional reservoir and tip us toward temptation. Recognizing this contagion, the Stoic cultivates mindful detachment. We can appreciate another's energy without adopting it as our own. By owning our emotional thermostat, we diffuse the spark before it ignites, a fire of longing. Finally, when thought and feeling collide with allegiance and action, we encounter cognitive dissonance, a painful tension that compels the mind either to reconcile conflicting beliefs or to rationalize questionable deeds. One harmless chat won't break my vows, the mind protests, inventing justifications to bridge the gap between desire and duty. Stoicism offers a remedy more radical than mere rationalization. We embrace the dissonance as a signal, not a loophole. Every pang of discomfort is a beacon drawing our attention to a deviation from our core principles. Rather than smoothing over that friction with excuses, we double down on reflection and resolve, reaffirming that virtue alone constitutes our true good. In these four psychosocial currents, the pleasure principle, the flame of fantasy, the tide of emotional contagion, and the alarm of cognitive dissonance, temptation finds both fuel and form. But within the Stoic arsenal lies the means to intercept each current. We redefine pleasure through discipline. We scrutinize fantasies with unflinching reason. We guard our emotional boundaries, and we honor discomfort as the herald of integrity. Through this deeper understanding of our inner workings, we transform temptation from a looming threat into a catalyst for self-mastery, proving that our character is not shaped by circumstance, but by the choices we boldly make. For Stoic strategies to recognize and interrupt temptation. Temptation may stalk us like a silent predator, but the Stoic arms herself with time-tested strategies that turn every ambush into an opportunity for triumph. These methods do not merely discourage wandering thoughts, they harness the very energy of impulse, converting it into a crucible in which our character is tempered and refined. Let us journey through each tactic, appreciating how it works as part of a unified practice of self-mastery. First comes the decisive act of pause and question. When a seductive impulse surfaces, perhaps the ping of a private message or a flattering comment from across the room, we are invited to answer to simple but seismic questions. Is this impulse aligned with my reason? Does it lead me closer to the person I intend to be? In that space between sensation and assent, reason takes the reins. We breathe deeply, center ourselves, and name the choice in clear language. I choose loyalty. I choose depth over distraction. That fraction of a second is our battlefield. By seizing it, we stop temptation in its tracks and assert our sovereignty over every thought. Yet resisting alone is not enough. We must also inoculate our minds against the fever of desire. Here, negative visualization proves its power. Stoics deliberately conjure the worst-case scenarios: the loss of trust, the collapse of affection, the hollow aftermath of a moment's infidelity. By vividly imagining these pains, allowing the heart to feel the weight of regret before any action is taken, we create an emotional firewall. The lure of a passing thrill pales when set against the ruin we foresaw. Rather than fearing what might happen, we welcome the rehearsal of its consequences, knowing that forewarned is forearmed. Complementing this is premeditatio malorum, the Stoic art of preemptive planning. We map out the temptations ahead of time: late night, emails from an old beau, team outings where lines may blur, social media scrolls that breed longing, and we script our responses. If I receive an off-color text, I will pause, remind myself of my vows, and delete it without replying. These rehearsed commitments become ingrained reflexes. When the moment arrives, choice flows naturally, like a river following a well-worn channel. But a strategy without reflection loses its edge. That's why journaling and self-examination sit at the heart of Stoic practice. Each evening, we carve out moments of quiet to record our inner battles, the fleeting attractions we noticed, the victories we claimed, the moments we stumbled. We write without judgment, observing patterns and gleaning insights, perhaps discovering that Wednesday afternoons, when energy lags, temptations strike hardest. With this self-knowledge, we adjust our routines. We schedule invigorating tasks in those low moments. We enlist a friend for accountability. We recommit to the principles that guide us over time. Our journal becomes a mirror reflecting both our growth and the areas demanding greater vigilance. Finally, we remember that no fortress stands alone. Community and accountability transform private resolve into public strength. We choose a trusted confidant, perhaps a spouse, a mentor, or a friend equally dedicated to virtue, and we pledge transparency. We share our temptations, our stumbles, and our successes. In voicing our struggles, we strip them of their power and invite encouragement. When shame threatens to shroud our resolve, the supportive voice of another brings clarity and courage. Together, we hold the line, reinforcing one another's commitment as a living testament to shared integrity. These 5 strategies: pause and question, negative visualization, premeditatio malorum, journaling, and community form a cohesive framework. They do more than repel temptation. They cultivate a mindset in which every challenge becomes a forge for virtue. When the next tempting spark appears, we do not cower, we stand ready, not as victims of impulse, but as architects of our steadfastness, our character ever more radiant for every trial we conquer. 5. Reframing desire as an ally. Desire is often painted as the enemy, a wild current that must be dammed or diverted. Yet in the Stoic vision, desire is neither villain nor victim. It is a messenger, carrying information about our deepest longings and unmet needs. When that messenger arrives, sometimes as a fleeting attraction, sometimes as a restless hunger for novelty, it is not to be shunned, but to be heard, decoded, and then redirected toward a more enduring good. By learning to listen, we transform desire from a threat into a powerful ally in our quest for virtue and meaning. First, recognize that the heart's stirrings point to an inner void, a craving for excitement, affirmation, or genuine connection. If a married woman feels the pull of temptation, it may be because something vital is undernourished in her life or relationship. Rather than chastising herself for weakness, she can lean into curiosity. What is this impulse truly seeking? Is it attention, adventure, a deeper emotional bond? By naming the need, perhaps the need for renewed intimacy or for feeling seen beyond the roles she inhabits, she gains clarity. Desire becomes the signal that something essential yearns for attention rather than an indictment of moral failure. Once the need is identified, the Stoic turns outward to strengthen the bonds that matter most. Rediscovering shared passion begins with courageous conversation. Sitting down with her spouse, she can speak honestly. I've noticed lately I'm craving more of your undivided attention, or I miss the spark we had when we first met. Vulnerability invites vulnerability. It clears the air of unspoken yearnings and paves the way for creative renewal. Together, they might plan a weekend getaway, experiment with new shared activities, or simply carve out technology-free evenings to listen intently to one another's dreams. But sometimes desire points inward, to self-actualization rather than romance. Here, the Stoic calls upon noble externals, not fleeting pleasures, but pursuits that enrich character and purpose. If a pang of temptation signals a yearning for excitement, she might channel that energy into learning a new skill, painting, martial arts, or public speaking. If she seeks affirmation, perhaps volunteering for a cause she believes in will yield authentic praise and lasting satisfaction. Charitable work, mentorship, Creative endeavors, all these noble outlets transform restless longing into virtuous action, aligning the spark of desire with the Stoic end of eudaimonia, or flourishing. Central to this process is the cultivation of inner fulfillment through daily reflective practice. Each morning, before the world stirs, she can anchor herself with a brief meditation, recalling her values, visualizing the kind of partner she aspires to be, and setting an intention for the day. Today, I will choose depth over distraction. This inner ceremony fortifies her inner citadel, making her less vulnerable to the siren calls of novelty. In moments of upheaval, she returns to this well of calm, remembering that true satisfaction arises not from external stimuli, but from an unwavering commitment to her own higher self. Finally, desire as an ally requires continuous feedback. By journaling or discussing with a trusted confidant, she tracks how these new practices impact her life and relationship. Does learning that new skill invigorate her spirit? Does volunteering deepen her sense of purpose? Does open communication with her spouse revive their bond over time? These practices form a virtuous cycle. Every time she heeds desire with wisdom, she builds proof that she need not chase impulses recklessly. The path to genuine fulfillment lies in conscious, values-driven choice. In reframing desire as an ally, we dismantle the false dichotomy between passion and principle. Desire becomes the compass that points to what matters most, and Stoic discipline transforms that compass into a guide. Rather than battling the currents of attraction, we harness their force, steering our lives toward ever greater heights of virtue, intimacy, and joy. In this alliance, temptation no longer threatens to undo us. It propels us forward on the Stoic path of self-mastery and lasting fulfillment. 6. Nurturing the marriage as a Stoic practice. In the grand architecture of a flourishing life, marriage stands as both sanctuary and forge, a place where our highest virtues can take root and be tested under fire. To treat marriage as a true Stoic practice is to transform it from a passive state of being into an active path of philosophical cultivation. It is not enough simply to love one another. We must love well, with intention, courage, and unwavering commitment to growth. Below are four interwoven practices that elevate marriage into a daily exercise in wisdom, justice, temperance, and courage. First, embrace shared philosophical inquiry as the heartbeat of your partnership. Too often, couples drift into comfortable silence. Instead, set aside time each week to read an excerpt from Marcus Aurelius Seneca, or Epictetus, perhaps a single passage from Meditations, and discuss its meaning aloud. Ask, how does this principle apply to our relationship? What judgments have we made about one another that need re-examining? Through this mutual exploration, you sharpen each other's insight, reinforce the habit of reasoned reflection, and build a common intellectual foundation. The result is a marriage steeped in purpose, where every conflict becomes a question to investigate rather than a wound to nurse. Next, practice joint negative visualization to stoke the flames of gratitude. Together, imagine a world in which your spouse is gone. How would ordinary moments feel if they were impossible? Picture the empty chair at dinner, the silent bed at night, the quiet absence of shared laughter. Let these images stir deep appreciation for every small kindness and daily ritual you otherwise take for granted, rather than inducing melancholy. This exercise cultivates fierce appreciation. It trains your hearts to notice and to savor the joy of simply walking through life side by side. Third, weave rituals of appreciation into the fabric of each day. Stoics honored the gods with offerings. You can honor one another with sincere acknowledgement. Each morning, offer a specific compliment. I admire how you listened so patiently to my worries yesterday. Each evening, express gratitude for a simple act of service. Thank you for making coffee this morning. It set my whole day right. These rituals do more than spread warmth. They concretize the Stoic virtue of justice, recognizing your spouse's worth as an equal partner. Over time, these small moments become the mortar binding your union, reinforcing loyalty and trust at every turn. Finally, commit to shared accountability and continual refinement. Choose a weekly council of two, a sacred space where you each disclose moments when external pressures or fleeting desires tested your vows. Speak without shame, listen without judgment, and then together craft a renewed pledge. perhaps to pause and reflect before reacting, to carve out more undistracted time, or to reignite a dormant shared passion. Document these commitments in a visible place on the fridge, in a shared digital note so you cannot lose sight of them. This practice trains both partners to hold themselves and each other to the highest standard of temperance and courage, turning occasional slip-ups into fuel for growth, rather than sources of division. By treating your marriage as an active, Stoic practice through mutual study, negative visualization, daily rituals of appreciation, and shared accountability, you create a living workshop of virtue. Each trial becomes an invitation to demonstrate wisdom and understanding, justice and acknowledgement, temperance and restraint, and courage and honest self-examination. In this way, your marriage transcends mere comfort. It blossoms into a dynamic arena where two souls, guided by Stoic principles, forge a bond of unbreakable strength and purpose. 7. The broader Stoic vision. Virtue is the highest good. At the heart of Stoicism lies a single, clarifying truth. Nothing external, neither fortune nor fame, neither pleasure nor pain can touch the essence of our well-being. True good resides solely in virtue, the unwavering practice of wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance. In this grand vision, externals become what the Stoics call indifferents. They are neither evil nor good. They are neutral forces that may aid or obstruct our journey but cannot define its destination. When we anchor our lives in virtue alone, we claim an inner freedom that no outside storm can shatter. First, consider wisdom, the art of right judgment. Wisdom discerns between what truly benefits the soul and what merely flatters the senses. It is the compass that guides us away from destructive impulses and toward choices that align with our highest values. Wisdom asks not, "What will bring me the greatest sensation?" but "What will forge my character most powerfully?" Each tested impulse becomes a question for reflection. Does this action deepen my integrity, or does it fracture my moral core? Through this lens, temptation loses its siren song. It becomes a whisper we observe, rather than a command we obey. Next stands courage, the strength to endure discomfort for the sake of right action. Temptation thrives in the shadows of fatigue, anxiety, and boredom, times when the mind seeks refuge in quick gratifications. Courage lights a torch in these dark moments, illuminating the path of resistance. It means standing firm when the tide of exotic promise tugs at our loyalties, and embracing the temporary sting of saying no so that our long-term commitments remain intact. Courage transforms small acts of refusal into victories of the spirit, each one reinforcing our capacity to face greater trials with unflinching resolve. Then comes justice, the virtue that governs our relationships. Justice reminds us that we are bound by promises, duties, and social bonds that transcend self-interest. To act justly is to honor the trust placed in us by spouse, family, and community. When temptation lures us toward betrayal even of thought, it is justice that holds the mirror to our responsibilities, showing us how every flirtation or hidden longing ultimately harms more than it helps. In practicing justice, we affirm that our commitments are not optional extras, but the very bedrock upon which character and community stand. Finally, temperance, the mastery of desire and aversion, binds the other virtues into a coherent whole. Temperance teaches that self-control is not about denial for its own sake, but about harmonizing our passions with reason. It is the discipline that turns raw impulse into deliberate action, transforming emotional chaos into directed energy. Through temperance, we learn that moderation is not a compromise, but a source of inner strength. By choosing measured responses, we maintain equilibrium even when external forces threaten to topple us. In embracing virtue as the highest good, we step out of life's endless rat race of gain and loss and into a secure citadel of the soul. No matter how the world shifts, whether our spouse's affection waxes or wanes, whether career fortunes rise or fall, our axis remains steady, rooted in the practice of what we can control. And in that steadfastness, we discover the paradoxical freedom of Stoicism. The less we depend on externals, the richer and more unshakable our inner life becomes. So let every temptation be met with this broader vision, a reminder that virtue alone stands at the pinnacle of human flourishing. Let wisdom guide your judgments, courage steel your resolve, justice temper your interactions, and temperance maintain your balance. In doing so, we do not merely resist temptation, we transcend it, rising above the pull of the world's fleeting charms to dwell in the abiding light of our moral excellence. 8. Conclusion. From temptation to transcendence. As we draw this exploration to a close, remember that temptation itself is neither foe nor friend. It is the spark that reveals the depths of our character. Every moment when we encounter desire, we stand at a crossroads. Will we surrender to the fleeting allure of external pleasure, or will we step into the nobler path that leads to lasting fulfillment? The Stoic answer is clear. We choose the higher ground. We transform temptation from a momentary crisis into a defining opportunity, emerging not only unbroken, but stronger, wiser, and more compassionate. Begin by revisiting the lessons we've uncovered. Temptation first arrives as an impression, a thought, a longing, a fantasy. In that instant, the Stoic warrior pauses, interrogates, and discerns whether the impulse aligns with her deepest convictions. This simple act of examination, practiced relentlessly, becomes second nature, creating a bulwark of reason between fleeting desire and decisive action. It is here, in that sliver of time, that freedom lives. Next comes the art of reframing. Rather than seeing desire as a ravenous adversary, we recognize it as a messenger. Its call points to an unmet need of connection, of novelty, of self-expression, and invites us to address the root cause with honesty and creativity. When a spark of longing flickers, we listen. We speak openly with our spouse, rediscovering shared passions. We channel restless energy into noble pursuits. We fortify our inner wellspring of purpose through daily reflection. In doing so, we honor desire without succumbing to its most destructive temptations. Our shared journey with a life partner becomes a living laboratory of virtue. Through communal inquiry, negative visualization, and rituals of appreciation, marriage ceases to be a passive state and becomes an active practice ground. We learn to navigate the pressures of familiarity, fatigue, and hyperconnectivity with courage and temperance, always returning to the mutual commitment that first drew us together. Every challenge we face side by side becomes a testament to the power of justice, the recognition that our highest duty is to uphold the trust and well-being of those we love. Above all, we anchor ourselves in the Stoic vision that virtue is the sole true good. Wealth, honor, even moments of pleasure, all are indifferent when measured against the glory of a well-lived life. Wisdom guides our judgments so that we no longer mistake a passing thrill for genuine happiness. Courage steels us to endure the discomfort of saying no to temptation, knowing that each refusal strengthens our resolve. Justice orients us toward our obligations, ensuring we never betray the bonds of trust. And temperance binds these virtues together, transforming raw impulse into deliberate choice. In this grand tapestry, temptation becomes the loom upon which character is woven. Each encounter is a thread, sometimes of tension, of triumph, that, when woven with purpose and skill, forms an unbreakable fabric of self-mastery. The temptations we overcome are not marks of deprivation, but badges of honor, affirming that our highest allegiance is to the virtues we uphold. We do more than survive temptation, we transcend it, stepping into a life defined not by what we deny ourselves, but by the moral excellence we cultivate. So stand now at the threshold of every future temptation with unwavering confidence. When a tempting face appears on your phone screen, when a flirtation drifts across the workplace, when monotony whispers for momentary escape, remember who you are: a sovereign of your mind, a guardian of your commitments, a sculptor of your destiny. Each no you speak is a proclamation of who you choose to become, and with every virtuous choice, you ascend farther from the realm of fleeting desires into the enduring light of Stoic transcendence. Let this be your rallying cry. In every trial, choose reason over impulse. In every moment, choose virtue over ease. And in every temptation, choose the path that elevates your soul above the storm. Today, you have been unmasked. The roots of temptation lie in our undisciplined judgments, unmet needs, and social pressures. But in you lies also the power to uproot those temptations through the Stoic art of examining impressions, practicing negative visualization, journaling, and nurturing your marriage as a shared philosophical project. Stand now on the threshold of choice. When the next alluring message arrives, when weariness tempts you toward a fleeting distraction, remember, you are not a slave to impulse. You are the commander of your own heart. In that moment, choose virtue, choose loyalty, choose the profound, lasting joy that springs from a life lived by reason. That may this journey embolden you. May your path be lit by the unwavering torch of Stoic wisdom. And may every temptation you face become an opportunity to reveal your true, unassailable strength. Thank you for listening, and may you walk forward today as a living testament to the power of reasoned choice.